Hey everyone, welcome to the Whorl podcast. I have Matt Dangler with me, our daily fantasy expert, and this is the result from last night, Monday, May 31st, for the single entry 12K MLB lineup that we put out. We actually ended up making a little bit of money. We paid $1 and made back three, and we were basically a little bit outside of 1200 in terms of our rankings out of the 14,000-ish entries on the hand yesterday. So Matt, our roster put up 191. We did not have a lot of the Colorado players, which obviously the lineup on the right is the high scoring one of the night, and they basically stacked four Colorado guys who all had 30 or more points, and they basically had 50 aside from Gonzalez. So what did we do right? What is one thing we did right, and one thing that the roster with 323 did right?
One thing we did right was the Cardinals stack, the little mini Cardinals stack we had. Both Diaz and Carpenter played very well, especially Carpenter. I mean, it's hard to it's hard to say that 46.8 wasn't good, but when Arenado had 50.6, it looks less great. But on any given night, 47 is an insane number to put up. So that was good. We targeted Gonzalez, which was the right play. I mean, it was a good matchup. It was a terrible pitcher in a good park, and so that was smart. Cole Calhoun was also very smart. No one had him, seemingly. He led off against a bad pitcher, so that was smart. And Merrifield actually had a great game as well. Kansas City kind of beat up on Smiley, and he was a big part of that, showing both some double power with some speed. I think he stole a base, so that was a good pick by you there. I think overall we did very well, but the lineup on the right, the Colorado stack was, I mean, they scored 17 runs. That was the 1 through 4 stack was smart. It was great. Their ownerships were even lower than they would have been because of the weather. So that was something that he took the risk on, and it paid off. Then the funny thing to me was Crone. It was just it's kind of a random pick. He put up 48 points. I actually watched that whole game.
Yeah.
And I think he hit 2 home runs. He hit the walk-off 2-run home run in the 10th or 11th. But, and it just seems, I mean, he hasn't been hitting well. It wasn't a good, amazing matchup, but sometimes you got to take that chance, and so applauded him for that.
Yeah, but the one thing I really liked about our roster is we took picks at the bottom fifth of the roster, and we can see that we did make a couple of different choices. Like Calhoun was only 2% owned, and Merrifield was a little bit higher than that, and they both went off. But all the high owned picks also went off for us, but the other four, like basically our lineup was very bottom heavy this time around, where a lot of our production came from the left side of the infield and basically all of the outfield. And the pitcher Nola hung in there. He did get roughed up a little bit. He only allowed 2 earned runs, but the Phillies ended up losing 5-1, and he allowed a Daniel Murphy home run as well. So not a great outing for Nola, but again, he's a reliable pitcher though, and all the peripheral stats also back that up. So just against Washington, a high-powered offense, it just wasn't his night. But had Nola done a little bit better, we could have had a little bit more chance to make more money. But all in all, a pretty good night. We are 3-6 on the season. I checked our history, so we played 9 games and we won we cashed in 3 of them. And overall, like, we only played the dollar entry the whole time, so all 9 times we basically spent $9 and made back $8.50. So we're minus 50 cents in the red. So not bad. I think tonight is a good slate as well. So let's move on to there and see if we can find good picks like CJ Crone and Cole Calhoun that can kind of go off tonight. But starting with pitchers, I really like Scherzer. I know pre-podcast when we had our meeting, you said you also like Scherzer, but convince me as to why we should pay close to $11,000 for Scherzer tonight.
So, any number of reasons. He's the best pitcher pitching today. He's pitching against the second worst offense against right-handed pitching, and the least powerful offense apart from the Braves against right-handed pitching. He has a 11.5 K per 9, which is unreal. He's coming off of a bad start against a high-powered offense, which will bring his ownership levels down, but that doesn't indicate that he'll actually do any worse. I mean, the Cardinals have beat up on absolutely everyone this season, and he's as safe of a pitcher as you can possibly have for as cheap of a price as I've seen him in a while. And He's if you pick anyone other than him in cash games, I would be sad because it's just a clear choice. But that does leave the point for GPPs that he's going to be highly owned. He's the clear top option. So there are pivots, and especially if you want to get the Colorado Rockies or the Astros hitters in your lineup, you're going to have to not pay for Scherzer. So there are additional options. Do you have any of those additional options that you see fitting for tonight?
Yeah, so Aaron Sanchez is one of those guys that is super streaky. Like he'll have a decent game, and then all of a sudden just utterly collapse. I've had him when he put up 4 points, and I've had him when he put up like 51 or 48 a couple of days ago or a couple of weeks ago. So again, streaky as they come, but he's going up against the Yankees. He's a right-hander. A lot of the Yankees lineup is right-hander or switch hitters, whose strength isn't hitting on the right-hand side. So it could be a worthwhile move, but we should also say that Ellsbury, Gardner, and McCann are all lefties that can hit really well, and as is Mark Teixeira if he's starting. So four power hitters, or not power hitters per se, but like four guys that can get on base and kind of give Sanchez some problems. But not a bad pick, I would say. Not the best one on the night either. The one that we really both liked was Matt Shoemaker of the Angels. He's been killing it in the last two outings, and the Angels haven't completely stunk up to now, which has surprised me. Same way with the Phillies, who are also an upstart team that I didn't expect. But with the Angels, he does have a sky-high ERA. As you can see, he had a rough start to start the season. A lot of negatives and 3-point nights, so he could definitely tap into that again tonight. You never know. Detroit is a deadly offense. You have J.D. Martinez, Miguel Cabrera, Victor Martinez, Ian Kinsler, and those are just four of the many other demons they can throw at Shoemaker. So he has the beard rocking, I think. So he may have potential to match whatever Scherzer does if he doesn't go off. Because when Scherzer goes off, it's usually 70 to 90, and that's his like ceiling. But with Shoemaker, his ceiling is more so in the 50 to 60 point range, and I think if Scherzer has a bad night at $10,700, by picking Scherzer, you have to be really precise about all the lower tier options you have. You have to get guys like Whit Merrifield at 2,600 who may or may not go off. So if we don't want to make that move and we want to have the ability to roster a lot of the Colorado Rockies hitters and stack them, then I think Shoemaker is our best option.
I would agree. I think again, his ERA is high, but he actually has pitched a lot better than that based on his peripheral statistics and indicators recently. His velocity's up, his hard contact is down, the Sierra is way down. He seems to have kind of flicked a switch, so hopefully that continues into tonight. I would be fine locking him in as our GPP pitcher because I think it's worth taking the chance that Scherzer isn't Mr. Perfect Scherzer, 93 points. And if he's not, then that gives us that edge because we've spent almost $3,000 less, and we can use that on better hitters.
Yeah, so we want to mention that this is a GPP, so if you are doing cash, go for Scherzer. That's literally the best option on the night and the safest option. But because we're in a GPP, we're probably going to go with Shoemaker here. And the one thing I'll say is the game that he had 93 points, that team was the Detroit Tigers, and Shoemaker is facing Detroit Tigers at Angel Stadium, which is basically a fortress. Like yesterday, there was a couple of home runs being hit, and the end result was 11-9, Angels winning it. C.J. Cron of all people had 2 home runs as well, so there's potential for fireworks in terms of home runs and stuff. But I feel like the Angel Stadium is pretty much tough to get out of. So, and the series for whatever reason has been very high scoring up to now. So I feel like there is going to be a regression to the mean, and it might be tonight when you have Shoemaker versus Fulmer. And Fulmer is the guy that might allow a ton of runs as well tonight. So I do like Shoemaker, so we're going to lock him. But as Matt said, go for Scherzer if you are doing cash games or you want a closer, safer GPP lineup. So let's move on to catcher. There's a couple of options here that I really enjoyed. Houston is probably Jason Castro starts. I believe for the most part, Robbie Ray is a pretty crappy pitcher so far. He has done a little bit better the last few outings, but he tends to strike guys out. The Astros love to strike out, so this may not be a good time to roster the Astros, but if there was a spot for Evan Gattis to go off, this would be it. And like a righty-lefty matchup as well. Gattis loves to hit home runs. He has 5 on the year. low batting average, and so he may strike out. He may have a zero for us at the end of the night tonight, but he has hit a couple of home runs in the last 10 games, so that is positive going into tonight's matchup against Robbie Ray, who should allow a few more runs than he has in the past few outings.
I agree. I really like Gaddis. I like actually the entire Astros right-handed hitters.
Yeah.
Ray is a guy who strikes out a lot of people. He's basically just a slinger.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a talented arm. He throws hard, but he doesn't limit contact at all. He's allowing a 40% hard contact rate, which is one of the highest in the entire major leagues. He's a lefty facing the Houston Astros, who are designed to hit lefty pitching. He's not very good. He's given up a decent amount of runs, and his indicators indicate that he's going to continue to allow even more than that. So the Astros have the second highest total on the slate, even more than the Reds, who are playing in Coors Field, which tells you something.
Yeah.
So anytime we can get an Astro bat in our lineup tonight, Springer, Altuve, Correa, Gaddis, do it.
Yeah, and one last thing on the Astros is that Castro actually plays catcher, I think, and then Gaddis actually DHs. I don't think that will be in play, will it? Because the Astros are in the American League, so it might be in play where Gaddis is the DH. So if you're basically a DH, like Big Papi, for example, your one job is to go up every at-bat and hit a home run or put the offense in motion. And that's what Gaddis is basically responsible for every time he's basically DHing for the Astros. So if that's the case, if Castro is catching today, then, I wouldn't want to roster a catcher that also has to be on his knees for all 9 innings versus a guy that's just going to be on the bench up until every fourth or every second or third inning where he has to go and hit a home run, hopefully. So if you don't mind, I'll put in Gaddis as our sort of preliminary choice, but we may come back and change it because catcher is a position where we could downgrade to like Wilson Ramos, and that could be okay as well, maybe. But there's
a couple good lower ones too.
Yeah, there's a couple of lower ones as well. Like Garneau could help with the Colorado stack, but I wouldn't bank on that. But Castillo could also help out. I don't know who is Houston throwing out there.
Michael Fires.
So yeah,
he's okay. Some good low cost options would be JT Realmuto. Again, he's cheap. He hits towards the top of the order, probably third, maybe fifth. Facing a terrible pitcher. Jonathan Neese is really not good. He had a couple good starts recently, but he's not good.
Yeah.
He will regress. Another one, a little bit riskier, Chris Iannetta. Friedrich is a pretty bad pitcher. He's a lefty. Iannetta hits with a lot of power against lefties. He's 2,200. If you need a cheap catcher to fill in, he's a good option.
Yeah. But they are in San Diego,
though. Clear top option.
Yeah, but Iannetta is going to be in San Diego, so the home run potential may not be as high as it would be otherwise.
No, I agree.
Yeah, so let's move on to first base, where there's a lot of top-end guys that are pretty enticing. I want to immediately go ahead and roster David Ortiz because I feel like this is another home run potential kind of night for him. But instead of doing that, let's see if there's an opportunity to roster a Colorado first baseman. Does Mark Reynolds stand out to you at all?
He's a good play, yeah. I think he has a pretty high batting average. He's not hitting for any power, which is disappointing.
Yeah.
But he normally hits lefties well. I think he'd be a good play.
Okay. Is Votto, who also had a home run last night at 4,000, we'd be paying $400 more for Votto. He's been on a good streak recently in Colorado, hits a home run both nights out. Do you think tonight's the night he repeats it again and maybe goes off for 2 or 3?
He might. The Colorado pitcher is actually pretty good. Chatwood has been good.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't hate targeting him, but he seems a little expensive.
Yeah.
At this point, despite we all know how good Votto is. But there's so many good cheap first baseman options that I would hate to pay up for him specifically. There's a lot of good ones. Tyler White's a good option. He'll be hitting fifth probably for the Astros tonight.
Yeah.
My favorite one, who'll be in all of my cash lineups, maybe not as good of a GPP play, is Dae-Ho Lee. He's the first baseman / I guess DH occasionally, but he probably will play first for the Mariners. He hits with so much power. He set some records in Japan where he recently came from. Kills lefties. Not good against righties, but he really does hit lefties well. He's so cheap. He'll be in all my cash lineups. Just because it allows me to do so much. But
Yeah,
then if you work your way up, the reason I said not Votto is at the same price point, I would much rather have Chris Davis. Because Joe Kelly is not. I love him because he's a Red Sox pitcher and he's working his way back. But he currently is not a great pitcher and he's getting destroyed by lefties.
yeah,
And that stat right there is a little misleading. His game last night, he hit a ball that was about an inch foul. And they called it foul and they reviewed it for like 5 minutes. And then they said that it was foul. But it literally went over the stadium. It went over the right field gate into the street behind the stadium. I've never seen a ball hit that hard at Camden Yards.
whoa,
And so he's seeing the ball well, and he hit that one. But like he's a guy that's too cheap. But there's so many good first basemen: David Ortiz, Votto, Reynolds again.
yeah.
I would be fine with Reynolds, but
So
there's just so many good options.
yeah, I do like Chris Davis tonight. It has been a while. Like, so basically, I was doing the Matt Carpenter article 2 weeks ago, and for that, I was covering the 2013 All-Star game as well and seeing who were the first-time All-Stars then, and it was Chris Davis. And I remember starting the article pretty early, like 3 weeks ago or something, and I published it last week. And at the time, Davis didn't have a home run to his name. Like, I said Davis's slash line and then said with 10 home runs and X amount of RBIs. And then 2 weeks later, I go through the final piece before I'm about to publish it, and his batting average dipped and his home run stayed the same in a 2 week span. Like, he literally didn't hit a home run. So I like the fact that yesterday you saw that game and you were convinced that he has inklings of that power that was so apparent that allowed him to hit 10 home runs, but he's kind of stuck on number 10 so far. So I do think against Joe Kelly, who has struggled a little bit and is coming back from a stint on the DL or an injury, this would be a good night to have Chris Davis on our team. Is there any other option in terms of like Rizzo against Bolsinger, who's a righty for the Dodgers?
Not a bad play. I would probably rather pay up for Davis or pay a little bit down
Yeah.
for Reynolds at that point because I really do. Reynolds is a good play.
Yeah.
He is a power hitter, which is why it's a little mysterious that he's not hitting for power. So that's something that could come around, and I
Yeah.
could see that coming around tonight.
Yeah, and even like last night, he played, but he only went 1 for 4. He was the lone cold hitter in that entire lineup yesterday. So I feel like tonight something might switch where Arenado and Gonzalez don't have great nights, the stars you would think would, but it would be guys like Reynolds and Gerardo Parra and Ryan Rayburn even that could have great outings. So it may be wise to stack another team aside from Colorado.
Don't do that. No.
Really?
No. They have a total of 6.5 runs.
Okay. So
Don't trust Vegas. Trust
Okay.
Vegas.
I'm just trying to play the devil's advocate because you mentioned the Astros, so it's not like you go from the Rockies and then go to utter collapse if you do any
Yep.
other stack. But we have second base where there is Jose Altuve for $4,000. He's going up against Robbie Ray, so maybe a good time to slot him in or no.
I love him. I think he's definitely the top play. It's whether you want to pay $4,000 for him.
I don't know. The power, for whatever reason, so with Reynolds, the power hasn't been there. For Altuve, the power suddenly is there. So it makes me think that he could have a great night where he hits a home run to start off the game and then all hell breaks loose after that. The one guy that was also on my mind was LeMahieu, who had a pretty good night last night. But I think, like we said yesterday, and we were obviously wrong about it, but he does hit for contact more so than power. And so it was surprising to see him put up a 50-point night with a home run to add as well. But, what we said did check out at some point because the other 3 hits, they allowed him to get on base, and he basically scored 4 runs. And that was a brunt of his 49-point night. So the home run was 18 points, but everything else was based off of contact. And not to say that contact isn't a good thing. Like, you can get on base, steal a base, and then hit a double or triple, and those are just as valuable, if not more, than a guy who just tries to hit a home run every time out and puts up zeros all over the place. But tonight may not be the night to target LeMahieu when he can get Altuve as part of perhaps an Astro stack. So let's put him in, but is there any other choice that you had?
I think those 2 that you covered were pretty much the 2 top guys. I'll give you 2 cheaper ones. Again, I realized my Dozier pick last night wasn't amazing, but it's essentially the same scenario except a worse pitcher tonight. Manea has been maybe the worst pitcher on the A's, if not in the league. But it's the same. It's a lefty. He goes good against lefties.
So are you sure he's not on the morning stack or morning lineups? Because I don't see Oakland.
He may be.
Yeah.
Is he? Because when I was doing, I guess I had the full day lineup up.
Yeah.
That would make sense. So the other one that I was gonna say, don't ignore the Dozier if you're doing the full day and you somehow haven't started yet.
Yeah.
Sure, but Josh Harrison is a good option. He hits for contact with a little bit of power. He'll probably lead off against Conley, who's a mediocre lefty.
Mm-hmm.
See, his batting average is pretty good.
Yeah.
He's someone that's a pretty good cash option, although I still think he doesn't come near the vicinity of Altuve or LeMahieu. But if you just, for some reason, don't want to spend $400 more.
Yeah, and the Pirates were also one of those teams that put up 10 runs, I think, yesterday against the Marlins. So I doubt that happens again, even if it is Conley on the mound, because... and especially if it does happen, I don't think Harrison will be the guy that hits like 3 home runs to make it happen.
That won't happen.
So let's move to third base. Is Nolan Arenado basically your top guy on the roster today?
I don't know how you could not roster him. After what he did yesterday, how good he's been, he has the league leading home runs. He's only 4,400. I will be playing him.
Okay. So if I add him, there's a bit of maneuvering we may have to do later on, but thankfully, like, we have good, decent options at lower prices too. But how tempting is it for you to not pick a guy like Donaldson, who could equally have a decent night, but Tanaka has been a little bit really solid this season, actually. Just the wins haven't been there because the run support hasn't been there in his starts. But do you think he went off on Friday night and hit a pair of home runs against Boston, like a couple... last week, to your chagrin, I think you didn't really enjoy that, but from that point, he has had a hit in every single game. I feel like one of those hits eventually should turn into a home run. So maybe tonight is not a good option to have him, but just for future consideration, that might be good. Another guy was Chris Bryant against Bolsinger, was somebody that I liked, because especially if you're gonna be okay with paying up to $4,400 for Arenado at Coors. Bryant against Bolsinger, I think the game is in Dodger Stadium. Or no, it's in Chicago.
It's in Chicago.
Yeah, so he enjoys, batting in Chicago as well, and he had an 0-for-3 night and a 1-for-4 night. So a cold series for him so far, but if there's a day or night or a pitcher to go up against on the Dodgers and for him to do well, it may be tonight. So don't discount Chris Bryant either, but for the most part, we will stick with Arenado unless he's randomly not starting or something.
Yeah. Again, I like Bryant a lot. I think that's the clear second best option.
So what did you make of Jake Lamb? Because that was
Third
a guy
best
that...
option.
Right. Because that basically was 1, 2, 3. It was Arenado, Bryant, and then Jake Lamb, who had a 9.5 night yesterday. He's making good contact. This was the one game he didn't start, but the last 9 games he's, reached safely, so that's a good sign. That means he's going to hit for contact, get on base, and Houston is going to throw out Fiers, who has a sky-high ERA, but the peripherals, as you said, do check out a little bit, so he's not complete, like, Pelfrey level of badness or Jonathan Neese level of badness. So if you're looking for a lower option that's not Arenado or Bryant, $3,400 for Jake Lamb should do it for you.
Definitely. And if you... One more, again, not somebody that I love, but Neese is a pretty horrific pitcher, and... Martin Prado will hit second for the Marlins. It's only 2,800. Again, don't not play Arenado for some reason. But if he doesn't start or you really, really can't afford him, Prado's an okay option because he hits lefties well.
Yeah, he hits lefties well, but the only drawback on him is he doesn't hit for power. He actually hits for like doubles and triples. And so you're going to collect points, but it's going to be the LeMahieu way, where it's likely not going to be a home run, but a lot of contact and putting the ball in play and seeing what happens. But yeah, like you said, Neese somehow has 5 wins on the season, which is a complete surprise to me. That number at the end of the season might be the same given his reputation. But for now, I think Prado would be a good choice, but not the best choice. I would say like 5th.
No, again,
in the
he's
top 5.
Someone that's okay. Like just pick Arenado.
Right. Go with the safe choice here.
Yeah.
So shortstop. Little bit interesting. Mr. Xander Bogaerts of your Red Sox has a 24-game hitting streak. Hopefully, now that I've mentioned it on the podcast, we haven't cursed him. Because I wrote a Jackie Bradley Jr. article and he had a hit the next day, but after that it ended. So I have a feeling that this might happen to him, so we won't cover him a little bit here. But all joking aside, is he a good choice tonight at 4,300, or are there better options down the road?
I'd say there are better options, but again, he's a good choice. Paying up for the Red Sox is a pretty contrarian strategy that I think could actually pay off tonight. Yeah, I would consider he and Mikado both really good plays tonight because neither pitcher's great. It's a good hitter's park. No reason. No, I don't think there's necessarily a reason to play either of them in cash. But again, GPP's anything flies, and those are two good options. Do you have anyone else?
Yeah, one guy I want to shed light on recently has been Corey Seager because he's having an underrated season, like kind of like Mookie Betts, where Mookie had a 3 home run night last night, and it was amazing. And if you look at his stats, he actually has hit for power this year, even though we think of him as the steal bases and contact guy. And Corey Seager has done much of the same without all the stolen bases. He's hit for 9 home runs and 27 RBIs. Tonight, not a good option, but just in the future, if he's against a bad righty, definitely a really safe option in a cash game.
Yeah.
And he's been tearing it apart. A couple of zeros, I mean, to be expected. He's not a great hitter just yet, but the power has been there, and on a good day, like if he's playing Bartolo Colon, you want to go and roster Corey Seager at 3,600. And I didn't mention him in the past because the last few weeks his price has been more so Bogart's levels, but now it's kind of dropped back down to 3,600, which is much more digestible. So I would not mind at all going after Corey Seager. This guy I want to check on really quickly to see the pitching matchup. So how do you feel about Crawford against Perez?
I like it. I think there's a cheaper option that allows to get better outfielders, but if you have the space, he is a great option because Perez gets killed by lefties.
Yeah.
I think you're right on by going after him. He hits for power, and it's a good option.
So do you want to make this guy our choice tonight? There is a weather concern. I can pull it up here. San Francisco and Atlanta is 50-60% rain. The thing is, yesterday Coors had like a 60% chance of rain throughout the night, and that game put up 25 runs, I think. So, not saying Atlanta Giants could do that, but Atlanta and San Francisco could do that. But the rain shouldn't be that much of an issue, I think. So, do you want to just roster Crawford?
I would say yes. Other than it just leaves us nothing for the outfield.
Does it? Because I thought who was your smaller option on?
Hechavarria.
But that
he's
guy
only
hits for
2,300.
Yeah,
and
but
he leads off.
Doesn't he hit for contact only?
Yeah, but he leads off and he steals bases.
But he has 0.
I know, but he does steal.
Oh, okay.
He's quick.
You're saying tonight he starts stealing bases.
The reason I say that is because he's a really good hitter against lefties, and he's only 2,300. But if you can put in Crawford and see what we can do with the outfield. It's just we're not going to get Gonzalez.
Yeah, and if we go down, there's other options as well. Like I like Taylor Motter. Recently, he's not been too good, but just to start the year, or just ever since he got called up, he's been pretty consistent. I mean, a string of 3s and a 6 and then a 35. So he could put up a 0. He could put up a 3, but who knows? So that was a risky play. If we're going to take a risk with Hechavarria, then Motter is a likely kind of risky guy as well. But let's move on to the outfield and lock in Carlos Gonzalez.
Seems fair.
Okay.
Spotlight Mookie Betts real quick.
Right, yeah, because Mookie has been having a great night. And season, we should say. So, Mookie Betts, what are your thoughts on him?
Good play again tonight. It's essentially the same scenario as last night, and we saw what he did last night. That was a fun game to watch. But
it was, yeah.
Again, if you have the opportunity, plug him in. We just don't currently have that opportunity.
Right. A little too high in terms of cost. If we can get down to Corey Seager's price, like $3,600.
Must play. Yeah,
must play. But that means he would have to start doing badly, which I don't think is within his capability right now, because he's about to go on an MVP run. So much deserved, and hopefully Mookie keeps it up. Any other options at the bottom end? Because Mr. Gonzalez basically shredded our roster apart with his...
I have one for sure. Hyun-Soo Kim is going to be in all my lineups.
What team?
He's the Orioles 2-hitter.
Okay.
He hits very well. He's 2,500, I think.
Uh-huh.
He hits well against righties, very, very well. Kelly gets killed by righties, and he hits second for a high-scoring offense tonight.
Yeah, I'm still scrolling and I haven't found the guy, but I will. I saw his name. I
There he
just
is.
scrolled by him too fast.
So he's just a safe option with the potential for power. You won't see he has one home run, but he's only played in a few games, and most of those have been at bats.
Yeah,
So he's only played in a few full games, but
but
he's hitting the ball well.
do you think he's a consistent starter though? Right? It seems like he
Yeah,
is.
he'll start.
Okay.
He starts when they face a righty. He starts second. When they face a lefty, Reimold or Ricard start at the 2 spot typically, and
Okay.
they're facing a righty, so he'll start.
Yeah. So I'm scrolling down here. One guy really stands out to me. It's Mr. Owings. I don't know if you follow the Diamondbacks. I've watched a lot of their games for random reasons this year. He has a little bit of pop in his bat right now. Against the Padres, he had a really good series. A little bit cold as well, but I think if Arizona starts to take fires out of the park all of a sudden, Owings would be one of those prime characters to contribute to that effort, I think. So at 2100, this is about as low as we can get. Uh, this might be a good option. Do you agree, or do you have any other better options?
I don't have any better options. I don't know much about him, but again, the stats you said seem to indicate he does have pop. Plus, the points per game are interesting there. I
Yeah.
mean, look at the rest of the people in that vicinity, and his 8.5 stands out pretty highly.
Right, and through 49 games. Like if
Yeah.
there is an 8.5 in that area, it's like 1 or 5 games.
Exactly, through 3
Not
games,
50
and they happen
though.
to hit a home run 1 game.
Yeah, so 8.5. I think if he puts up like 9 tonight, we'll be happy, because
Absolutely, no, definitely.
yeah, because I
Plus, if
think
he hits a home run, that's great.
18, yeah, automatically. So yeah, this is basically Owings. I thought I had him on my list because I thought he would be helpful in our effort to get another Whit Merrifield kind of character on our lineup. This is a pretty good lineup, I think, because we got the catcher we wanted. Do you want to downgrade at catcher or first base, or are you happy?
I'm pretty happy now that you found. I just didn't have anyone cheap that I liked, and
Okay.
now Owings seems like a pretty solid
Yeah,
play, honestly.
but he is risky. He could put up a 0. So
But this is a tournament, so I'm fine with that.
yeah, and
I
he's
wouldn't necessarily play him in cash. That's
right. Yeah.
riskier, but this is where you play him.
Yeah, so again, great lefty righty matchups we have going on here. It should be a good night of baseball. I don't know if this is going to be another night where 50 home runs are hit, like it was last night, but should be a fun night. So, Matt, if you have any other qualms or concerns about the roster?
No, maybe one thing to say, this is a bit of a riskier roster, which again,
Yeah.
tournament's perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that, but don't go lock this into a 50-50.
Yeah. And just know that we're only paying $1 and creating
Yes.
this random sort of lineup where if we... Oh, basically, one more thing. Brandon Crawford isn't
Uh-oh.
starting. So I guess while we're making it, Hyun-Soo Kim got the start and Crawford apparently is sitting out. So
Okay.
we should go
Look at
back
the lineups
in.
page.
Yeah. Brandon
Interesting.
Crawford.
Crawford's not starting. That's
yeah,
odd.
against the perfect matchup too.
Yeah, I don't know why that would ever happen. Yeah, Hyun-Soo Kim is on the 2 spot.
hmm
Chris Heisey is leading off against Adam Morgan. That is so interesting. How expensive is he? Oh, that's it. There we go. Okay, that's our play.
What is it?
He's Chris Heisey. He's a right-handed outfielder. He's 2,000, and he's leading off for the Nationals against Adam Morgan, which is a dream matchup.
But Adam Morgan is Cliff Lee 2.0, so he does not allow a ton of home runs. It's a lot of like contact and get it out of there. But the
I hate to
Nationals are
take
different.
out Owings, though. I
Right,
was
he
thinking
is better
about
than
that.
Owings. Yeah.
You could play. Ignore that. I'll play him in my cash lineups.
No,
Put
but
Owings back in. I like the Owings play.
yeah, and against Morgan, I mean, I don't like this is not too convincing to me. The last 9 or so have been pretty bad, but he does have 4 home runs on the season, which I think maybe more than Owings does.
He also doesn't start, which is why those numbers are a little bit
Yeah.
deflated. But
Excuse me.
again, I would be fine with Owings, but I don't know. Yeah,
What does
if
that
we-
leave us with at shortstop though? Because
that's
Crawford
what I'm trying to
isn't
find
playing?
out. Like, I'm looking through the shortstops right now. I hadn't prepared for
Crawford not
shortstop as
playing.
well. For Crawford not playing, because he
Yeah.
was one of my top picks. Danny Espinosa is an option.
I started him yesterday or 2 days ago or yesterday, something or the other. No, not yesterday, 2 days ago. Against Morgan though, I don't know.
Morgan's so bad. I know you like Morgan. I understand.
I
But he
like
has
Morgan to an extent though, but if he has one of those, because he reminds me of Cliff Lee, the lefty
go to
matchups,
his
and
game log. It's so bad.
it is. I'm
But
joking,
again,
by the way. Like, I really don't think he's like Cliff Lee. It's just he reminds me shades of it. Like when he's on his A game, which is only up until like the third inning. After that, he
um,
basically allows like 7 runs, and then he gets kicked out of the game. But the first 3 innings, he usually looks pretty solid. I'm like, man, those were the good old days when Cliff Lee
yeah,
was in town.
he always starts games so well, which is
Yeah.
so weird. And then it like falls apart.
So
But
yeah, I don't mind Espinosa. I think if there aren't better options up there after Brandon Crawford, which I don't think there are because Tulowitzki's on the DL, Brad Miller maybe, but I'm not convinced by what I've seen from him. Galvis is more contact, but against Scherzer, I definitely don't want to roster any of the Phillies. So Espinosa basically seems like a good option.
Jordy Mercer's leading off.
He is, but isn't?
Again, he hits lefties well, but again, not a great play.
Yeah,
He's not a power guy.
yeah. And
What if we
yesterday,
paid down somewhere and went up to like Mikado or Correa or Story or something at
yeah.
shortstop?
So let's do that then. Do you like Correa more than Machado? Because Correa's been cold, like really, really bad recently. He had a
That's what I
great,
can't decide on.
yeah, he had a great start to the season. I mean, he's not bad, but like 253 for him is pretty bad. So,
Not
but he's
great.
been picking it up recently, and against Robbie Ray, that might be a good option. And he steals a lot of bases too. So, whereas Machado over here at 4,200, he is still a 300 hitter. Home run potential is still there. And though he has been a little bit cold against Joe Kelly, though, that should be able to fix whatever issues he's having. So,
What is your opinion? Personally, I would probably consider Mikado a better play.
yeah, Machado is probably the better, safer option. Do you
Yeah.
think Robbie Ray is going to be more of the past few starts where he did well, and then basically the Astros don't put up many runs? Because I think that's more likely than the Orioles not putting up many runs.
It's possible.
So that's why I
I
like
think the
Machado
Orioles.
more.
I mean, I'm a Red Sox fan, and I'm recommending Mikado.
Yeah.
So
So
I don't know.
where do we downgrade it?
Yeah.
Is it Arenado then, or is it Altuve?
No, maybe Altuve.
Yeah.
No, I can't take Arenado out.
Yeah. So if we
Or
get rid of
Gaddis.
right, so if we get rid of Altuve, that's actually salvageable because we can put somebody like Segura in, who hits for contact, but has shown a little bit of power this season. He's still a 300 hitter this deep into the season. Do you feel comfortable putting Segura out there up against Fires?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good play. That one, or I was gonna say him or Panic.
Panic's
Uh,
been cold though.
Has he? I haven't followed him at all. So.
Yeah, I haven't followed the Giants, but 247 for me isn't gonna cut it.
No.
The game is also a little bit of a weather hazard, and the last 10 hasn't been great for him.
Let's go Segura then.
Yeah, Segura's 300 hitter, so I felt like we need a safety net somewhere, and he's probably it.
Segura sounds interesting to me.
Yeah,
I actually like this now too. I think Mikado's I really like having Mikado in there.
yeah. Him and Arenado and Gonzalez, this is going to be really good, I think. And
Yeah.
obviously home run potential for both Gaddis, Reynolds. And I haven't really followed Hyun-Soo Kim and Chris Heisey, but you have. So yesterday with Merrifield, you trusted me, so I'm going to trust you with these two. And
We'll
hopefully...
hope for Heisey because he's leading off, and that's such a good situation to be in. But
Yeah, and I won't feel bad about it afterwards. I mean, I never do, but like if they don't have good nights, we at this moment in this time, these are great options for us. And so I'll keep that in mind if they put up zeros.
we'll see. I expect Baltimore to put up a lot of runs.
Yeah, so hopefully Hyun-Soo Kim is part of that lineup, and for for Washington, hopefully Heisey is always on base to basically be driven in by Harper or Murphy. So I like the lineup. Do you want to basically call it quits and see where this thing takes us tonight?
I think that sounds like a good play.
All right. So thank you all for listening. It was a longer podcast than we would like to. Brandon Crawford at the end kept us on our toes, so we had to extend the podcast for a little bit. But not too bad of a lineup, I think. It may or may not cash again. We did take a couple of risks, especially with Shoemaker on the mound. Matt, do you know why that game is starting at 7 p.m. though? I thought West Coast games were always 10 p.m.
I don't. That's really weird. Now that you're mentioning that, that is that right?
It may be right. I'm not
It
sure.
is. It is right. Yeah, that's right. That's super weird.
So it's probably a day game back in Anaheim, which
Yeah.
is okay. Like I don't mind it, but it's just odd to see that. But whatever, we should get off. So thank you everyone for listening, and hope this roster or one that you create that's a variation of this helps you win money and cash. So